Hello and welcome to the Property Talks podcast with me, your host, Adam Pigott. I am the CCO of Openbrix, the soon-to-be launched property platform for the new generation. The show is focused on the good, the bad and the ugly in the property and estate agency industry. What do the new generation want and how can we as estate agents deliver and grow? We hope you enjoy. Delighted to have with me Graham Locke from the Federation of Independent Agents, known as FIA, and on my left, Elliot Cross, who's had some interesting experiences as a tenant and also as a buyer, and we'd like to hear about your process from A to B. But first of all, can I ask Graham if you just give us a brief synopsis of your experience and how you've come to set up the FIA?
Yeah, sure. I started my life in the city in investment banking.
Whereabouts around here?
Merrill Lynch.
Merrill Lynch,
yes, not
okay.
too far away.
Right.
So did that for about 10 years and then just fell into a estate agency like many of us sort of end up doing.
Yeah, I did that.
And within 2 years, so this was around 2000, 2002, Rightmove had just sort of come to the fore. And it's kind of changed the way people were searching for property very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And once that happened, I saw a gap in the market for an online version of estate agency that would take the high street.
Which one was that?
That was called Amanda Roberts, which was in Chingford. My traditional agency,
right?
But the online agency was House Network.
House Network.
Yes.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Yeah. So starting House Network with a view to taking the industry off the high street and having a challenge at what was then a
one
£6
of the
billion
early onliners, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It's credited as being the original, which I take. But there'll be some challenges to that. But
so is this separate to Rightmove, where Rightmove actually introduces agents, and it's just literally everything is there and being sold on the platform itself? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, it's pretty much the same as estate agencies you'd expect it in the high street, but just not a high street premises. So we just took it nationally offline and then employed local experts, like Openbrix model is today, which you'll know very well. And they concentrated in their local areas to win business and to get the property sold. But it was a lot cheaper. It was a fixed fee, so hundreds of pounds as opposed to a percentage.
That got sold on, didn't it?
Yes, we got investment into that business, but sadly that business went into administration quite recently. As many did. Yeah.
I had one that went.
Yeah, the runway of cash needed is significant in those businesses, and I still think Openbrix are trying to find their way to decent profit as well.
They're a long way off.
It's by no means cut and dry. So I came out of the market after 10 years of trying. And I went back to a traditional agency through a managing director post at the Property Franchise Group. Okay. So I was looking after 100 estate agency franchisees over 4 different brands. And what I quickly realised was that the traditional model hadn't changed much since I left it 10 years ago. The same bad habits still existed, but what the agents in that group liked to do was collaborate. They liked to get together. They needed support, they needed help, and they wanted that from the franchisor. But they would pay 10%, circa 10% of their revenue for the right to the brand and the subsequent support.
Which can, of course, be all your profit in tough markets.
Yeah, it's quite a lot. And
what's an example of a bad habit? Sorry.
Of an estate agent?
Yeah.
It could be a range of things, but for example, data. So entering data into a CRM, a bad habit would be take the name and surname and telephone number and then just save it, with no email address, no postal address, no record of what they're doing, what they've been doing. So I think agents get into that bad habit of, they're very time poor, aren't they? So they just try and get through things as quickly as they can. So the FIA was really designed to take a look at the franchise model, but sort of condense it down into a lower fee, give the support that they really need to help them move on to the next level and get them into good habits, as we sort of discussed.
And presumably this is primarily to raise standards, but give support to independent agents.
Yeah, exactly that. And there's some brilliant estate agents out there, but unfortunately the industry has got a bad name over the years, largely because of bad delivery of customer service. And it's been quite easy to be an estate agent, hasn't it, as well? It's sort of just become one without any licensing.
Do you think in London that's the case?
Yeah.
Because it's a needs must. Certainly for me, when I first moved to London, it wasn't a matter of which agent do I particularly want to use. It was just, we need to find a place to live, and that was it. There was no driven incentive to use one particular agent. It was I need to live in this location. I looked online, estate agents in this location. That was it.
Yeah.
Where did you principally look online?
Just Google initially, I think.
Google.
Yeah.
Got you to
whatever. Yeah, I can't remember exactly where, but I mean, it's always going to take to bright people, something like that, isn't it?
One of the big portals,
because they are quite easy to use.
Yeah,
you
they
just
are.
put in the amount you're wanting to spend a month between X amount of people and you're off and away. So.
Absolutely. I mean, before the portals, Graham will remember this as well. As an agent, you'd have to get your photos from, your Kodak photos processed and ready, and then you typed copy, and it'd go in an envelope, and you go and take it down to your local newspaper. And you'd have to submit that sometimes a week before, and often you put 6 pictures in, and 3 of them had been sold or let. It's a complete waste of time. Whereas and money, but the portals definitely changed everything. So do you find that a lot of the independents like joining you because of the support you give, but also because of the fact that they are competing with some of the well-known corporates, who provide a great service? I'm not knocking them. But my experience is when I had my agency for 25 years, that I found I was almost competing to get my point over against the big brands, and I'd be, as an independent, I was kind of ignored, frankly. And that's why I like what you're doing, because from my aspect, I just think the support you're giving is great.
Yeah, there's different products and services that we offer. I think the key difference is the actual collaboration side of it as well, behind the scenes. Whereas you look at Australia or the US, there's a lot of collaboration between agents. They're not afraid to talk to each other, to share ideas, and they just want to be better agents. Whereas over here, the mindset has typically been that the agent just works in his agency or her agency, doesn't share anything with next door. It's very cutthroat, isn't it? I think
selfish. It sounds.
I think it's
hold on to what they've got and not let it go.
Yeah,
when
I think
it could
it is.
actually be for the benefit of the end user or the client.
Exactly, and I think FIA wants to create a group of agents that do share, that do learn from each other, and they want to be better. Because that's the only way we're going to turn the reputation of the industry around is having these groups, and mine being one of them, where the brand means something. So if you're part of FIA, you as a customer, our challenge is to, of course, to get through to the general public to look out for that standard, that mark, if you like. But if we can do that and we protect the brand, then the client should always experience a good thing for a FIA agent. Whereas at the moment, if you're looking to sell your home, you put in sell my house in wherever you live, you'll get maybe 9 or 10 different options for estate agents, and it's very, very difficult at that stage to know which one is going to look after your asset. Which is a huge thing when you're selling a house, and it's a lot big sums of money that you're entrusting an agent to, who's going to achieve you the best price, who's going to understand when you need to move, the type of buyer that you want to attract, and there's so many moving parts to it, and often people then get into the trap of paying the lowest fee. Which happens.
Commission driven, isn't it?
So you go, okay, you all look the same. I walk down the high street, you all look the same. Your websites all look the same.
You're all using the same portals.
Who's going to do it the cheapest? And that's where we've got to, and it's a race to the bottom if you do that. But the difference with FIA is the member agents are starting to increase their fees again, and they're not racing to the bottom. They're saying this is what we charge, but they're giving reasons why they charge that amount and whatever those USPs.
Sort of pushing the quality. And the service provision, rather than just fee-based.
I thought, conscious of that, I was always thinking that the cheaper was the best until I became, on the first time buyer ladder, as it were. And I spoke to different agents in the same town that I eventually ended up buying in, and the difference in the level of service that you received was just, it was unfathomable, really.
You had prior to that, so you rented at university the first time?
University, that was the first rental.
What was that like?
In terms of the quality of the house, pretty terrible.
Was that before or after you left
worse when I left it, but it was. I was at uni in Oxford, so it was actually a very, very strange letting process where we actually queued up outside the agency the night before to get the best houses.
No way.
Yeah, so we were there from 4 p.m. for the 9 a.m. opening.
Overnight?
Overnight, and this wasn't just us. Obviously, this was a queue of people.
I've never heard that. I think.
Yeah, this was a queue of people though, because in Oxford it's quite a small place. It's full of students. I think it's 1 in every 3 people there in term time is a student. So naturally, the houses that are the nicer ones, I suppose.
So how many of you were sharing that first time?
5 of us in the first house.
Right.
But we progressively moved on to not doing that the next year because we realised this is just ridiculous.
Once you were there, presumably you had to start looking for your house for next year. Or
pretty much immediately,
straight away,
which is ridiculous because how do you know? I mean, you get on with the first people in your first year and you move in with them, but who's to say what's going to happen over the next 12 months? I mean, nothing did happen. Luckily, we're all still mates now. But
so how many? You were at uni for 3 years? Or?
4 years.
4 years. So how many? Did you have 4 different properties?
4 different properties. Yeah, we moved each year.
Any bad experiences?
With what, the agents?
Yeah, with the agent, really.
I wouldn't say with the
Or the
agent.
landlord.
I think the landlords were the main problem. I think that's been the problem, well, certainly for a lot of people anyway. But even when I moved out of uni and came to London, it's always been the landlords that have really been the cause of concern. But then alongside
Give me an example. What sort of example?
it's more so towards the end of the tenancy.
Deposits.
Yeah, it's deposits. It's asking for ridiculous sums of money for something that is quite clearly not worth it. So one example was I had a kitchen that was no bigger than half this table, quite literally, and the invoice that I received was for 8 hours worth of cleaning.
Right.
And I was thinking, unless you're doing it with a toothbrush, there is no way this could have taken any more than about 15 minutes. And it's that then the costs increase, and you end up getting to the end of the tenancy actually just really miffed off with even living there and giving the person your money at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And then when I reverted back to the agent that obviously let me the property, they gave me no support. They were just like, file it up in small claims court if you want to.
And I was thinking, who was holding a deposit, the landlord or the agent?
The landlord, which is now what we're subsequently going into, I wouldn't say a legal dispute, but we've heard of organisations that basically support people like us in our position where our deposit was just abused.
So how many years ago was this?
This must have when I was 22,
right?
So 6-7 years ago.
Okay.
Would that put, if you was buying a house again in the future, would that put you off using that agent?
100%.
So,
yeah, because it's just support. You know, I'm not a professional in the industry, so how am I supposed to know what's really right and wrong? I'm aware of the tenancy deposit scheme now from subsequent lettings.
Probably weren't then.
But at the time, I wasn't. I had no idea what the whole process was.
This is the problem at the moment. Where agents have been guilty of treating it as a transactional business and not a relationship-based business. So they need to change their mindset from transactional to relationship-based. And if they do that, you would have been looked after so much better. And when you come to transact again, you wouldn't mind. You'd actually probably seek that agent out if they existed in the town because you had a good relationship with them. But as long as we're transactional, that's where the issues come. Yeah. And then when transaction levels falls, guess what happens?
Yeah.
Transactional-based agents are screwed. Yeah. Because there's no volume. But the relationship-based ones are saying, well, we're having a relationship.
I had this with my buying though as well. As I said, when I moved to the town that I now live in, I had 2 separate agents, one of which was a very big agent called Savills, that's clearly everyone knows, and the other one was a slightly smaller one. And the service that I received, to put it into context, we put an offer in on a house that was accepted. I then had the survey done, which flagged many sort of red flags.
Was this through Savills or through the other one?
This was through the other one. And because of that, I went back to the agent and said, look, evidently there is, quite a large sum of money that I'm going to need to pay when I move into this house, and it's not something I want. So can we speak to the seller and
to negotiate
it down, because I can't afford just to take this risk upon myself.
So just to reiterate, the survey you paid for.
Survey I paid for, yeah.
Then it brought up a number of issues, which you probably worked out was going to cost what?
Yeah, it was going to be 25 grand.
Right.
In
just to put it into context. So you wanted to go back to the agent and say, help me out here.
Help me out, yeah. So I did that, and I went and spoke to them on the phone and said, can you just go back to them and see what's what? It must have been a month before I then took initiative to say, maybe I was a bit slow in the process, but I was always with the assumption they're going to come back to me, they want me to buy the house. Yeah. Rang them back up and they said, oh, did so-and-so not speak to you? And I said, no one's spoken to me. And they said, oh, they're just staying in the house now, they're not selling it. So I was in very much a time-constrained process of actually needing to move into a house.
And you paid for the survey?
Yeah, and I paid for the survey. So there I was with a £800 bill, no better offer even knowing whether or not the house was still for sale, until I rung them up and said, what's going on? Have you renegotiated for me? And as a result, I never went back to them. Even if they probably had a better house than the one I bought, which sounds silly. I know that I would look at it upon it being a better house, but at that moment in time where you think, that's not where I want to be and not where I want to place my business.
So clearly, you'd be wanting to ensure your members who join the FIA, you'd like to think that they would have good practice and that wouldn't happen. What advice would you give to a potential buyer out there if they were going down that route and had a survey done? Would you, there was problems on the survey, would you be saying now, to the buyers, you need to get that survey and go in and sit down with them, or what would be your advice?
I think I can sort of speak from an agency side of it, that it comes back to that relationship based. If you was looked at as a transaction, that transaction died when their vendor said we're not selling anymore, we're staying put. So they just cut you out of it. They moved on. Yeah. If it was your relationship based, the agent should have had you in the office a lot earlier than you finding out yourself for a start, to be fair, and talk you through that survey and be on your and show you some support and compassion about what you're going through. Because was it your first time?
It was the first time I was buying a house, and it was also because I said to them when I first started looking, you know, I was expecting father basically, so I was like, I need to get into a house pretty quickly.
Sure.
You know, time is of the essence somewhat.
Yeah.
And I thought that they were, you know, on my side with that, trying to find me a property, but you know, alarm bells started to ring again because you put in, you know, what your requirement is, I suppose. So I was like, right, I want a 3-bedroom house, I want it to have some garden space. And they're showing you around 2-bedroom flats with no garden, just because they were on their books. So I was thinking, you're wasting my time here, but I'm a polite person, so I don't say it to their face rudely, because it's just not in my mannerisms to do that. So you end up looking around properties that you're like, oh yeah, this is really nice, yeah, great. And then you leave and you're like, I'm no better off for this.
There's a stat out there that will make sense, and it's something like, and don't quote me, but it's something like 70% of buyers don't go back to the agent they bought the house from when they're selling it.
Really?
And that's a powerful set. Doesn't surprise me, because you wouldn't go back to sell that house if you bought it through that agent.
Not through that agent.
Or
no.
any house that you have bought, you wouldn't go back to that agent.
Would you go back?
Would
you end up buying through Savills?
Yeah, I actually would.
You would go back.
Yeah,
so you're one of those 30%. Well, that's good. That's a good thing.
Yeah, I think it's just a completely different way of service. You know, as I said, when I sort of was shown around the house by the initial agent, they were like, you know, this is the bathroom, this is the kitchen. It was a very sort of like, standard. This is black and white sort of thing. With the Savills representative, they were telling me much more about the local area. They were telling me about how the road was going to close for children on Fridays in the month. Stuff that actually makes you think, oh, this is much more of a community. I'm not just buying a house here. I'm buying into the community and the spirit of the place, because it was a new area to me. I don't know the neighbours. I don't know anything really about them. So the more they can give me to make me feel at ease of the biggest purchase that I've ever made, certainly, and I'm sure every first-time buyer is the biggest purchase they've ever made, you feel more at ease with parting with your money, effectively, and that's it. So.
Savills are obviously doing the right thing, because you would go and use them again, and perhaps that if their fee was even slightly higher than the one that messed you around, you wouldn't even really be too bothered about that, because you know what they're going to give you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's such a big transaction. How many times do you move house nowadays?
We try and make it as infrequent as possible.
But 17 years or something now. It used to be every 10, but it just keeps going up. But repeat business, often you do it.
Repeat business, you don't have to pay for as an agent. So for me, it was always, you know, look after your clients, particularly. Then, I mean, you want to look after your buyers, being your tenants, but look after your clients. Number one. For sure. Did you? In fact, I know for a fact you went through Credit Ladder.
Yeah.
Tell me about that experience.
In terms of the process of being put on it and
did you find it benefited you?
Definitely. I think that it's always one of those things, isn't it, that you hear at school when you're growing up. You know, your credit score is really important. You're thinking, oh, what on earth is a credit score type thing? You're very naive to it. You go to uni and you're thinking, oh, it's fine. And then it's only when you start to sort of go through the motions of it, maybe even buying a house or letting a house or starting the process, that you realise how important it is. And I feel like it's probably something that needs to be drilled into people a bit more than it is.
Yeah, we're definitely trying.
Well, yeah, because you can, you know, I've got friends right now that are really putting themselves in a difficult position from a mortgage front because they have no credit score. You know, they've been renting for the same time I have, and they've had no backup of other than probably their phone bill, which, you know, 20 quid a month is not going to give a mortgage or a lender the hugest amount of security that you're going to be able to repay a £1,000 mortgage or something.
So at Openbrix, as I'm sure you're aware, we've partnered with Credit Ladder. So what we're trying to do is give tenants who find their property through the agents that are using Openbrix, we're trying to give them knowledge to understand the importance of their credit history. So from your perspective, you joined Credit Ladder, you had your rent read through their open banking system.
Yeah.
And then, did you find that, you know, that did that actively positively help you with A, a mortgage, but B, with any other form of credit as well?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, if you stick on Experian or something, then you're bound to see what your credit score is doing pretty quickly. And if you make changes, even if they're what seem insignificant by signing up to Credit Ladder, you're actually quite, you know, it's pretty immediate.
So you saw a jump?
Yeah, pretty immediate, the response in it, which, you know, again, you don't realise how important it is until suddenly you're calling up a bank and saying, can I borrow X amount of money? And the process of it was very, very smooth. You know, from putting my name and my details in to paying a monthly instalment I didn't have to think anything about. You know, it was a no-brainer. It's just done. You forget about it. It's not actively sort of involvement in it. You just forget about it. It's always totting up your, improving your score as well.
Graham, do you think from agents who are members of the FIA and those that particularly have a lettings arm, which I imagine most do these days, do you think that's something of importance, that they're something they can offer their tenants? Do you think my view, I'm putting words in your mouth, but my view is that I think to be able to go to your clients as an agent, to be able to say, look, my tenants that we recommend to you will have a vested interest to pay their rent on time, because it's going to affect their credit score. Well, it'll influence it. If they pay late, it's going to influence it. If they pay on time, it's going to influence it, but in two different ways, one positively, one negatively. Do you think that's something that agents will find useful?
Yeah, I think it's a very competitive world, agency, lettings and sales, and whatever USPs you can provide and whatever added value service you can give to your landlord, the better. And I think secondly, we're sort of, we're not a nation of renters, but we're certainly getting towards that.
Well, it's become far more acceptable because out of necessity, because of the way the prices have changed.
And it's not just flats now and student accommodation. It's 4-bedroom homes, it's 5-bedroom family homes. So I think the lettings market has changed over the years, and it's become acceptable to rent a family home. And I think more options you've got, the better for anybody that's coming in for landlords.
That's great, fantastic. And tell me, I want to ask you, licensing is coming in. What's your view?
I think it's a fantastic opportunity to finally nail it, because I think over the years there's been sort of rumours about it coming in and what should it look like.
Because fundamentally right now, anyone can be an estate agent.
What is licensing, sorry?
So it's a regulation that will be coming in around 2 years' time. The government have signed off that you can not be an estate agent without passing your licensing examinations and ongoing CPD.
And that's just not for an office, that's for anyone working within the industry.
Individuals, yeah.
So it's not just directors of agencies,
no,
it's everyone through down to the almost assistants, as it were, that are just involved in receiving information.
Which my argument's always been the value of transaction, the cash values are so significant that why aren't we licensed? If you look at mortgage brokers, investment advisors, accountants, solicitors, anyone dealing with large amounts of money is really under scrutiny. And if they mess up, they're struck off.
Shame we can't make our MPs be licensed.
We wouldn't have anything left, would we?
Do you think that's going to close a few agencies?
Yes.
The bad ones?
Yeah.
So that's a good thing?
That's a good thing. I actually think there's a perfect storm coming for agents. I think it's, should we say Brexit? I don't want to say the word, but there we go, I've said it. That will be decided one way or the other, won't it, in the next 12 months?
Well, let's hope so.
You'd like to
Please,
think.
let's hope so.
We won't get into that right now, but you've got agents closing now because transaction levels are so low. The market's just paralysed at the moment. It's not doing anything. Agents are closing down. The licensing rules mean that there's more pressure on agents to come through this cycle. And I think in 12 to 24 months' time, the market will start to turn, and those agents that are qualified, that have stuck through these difficult times, we're through the political landscape and the economical. We might be in a recession. We're very close to it, and
possibly they may come out with an increased market share.
Absolutely, yeah. I think they will.
There's going to be
and fees will go up.
Yeah,
fees will go up because what we need to become is a profession, and estate agents aren't seen as professional people. Yeah. They're seen as chancers, as Del boys,
but
just running around with a mobile phone, and yellow ties.
Going on just what you've just said, I'm not, and obviously you shouldn't name them. You're right to, but you had an experience buying a house with a I would qualify as a lazy agent, based on transactional. Yeah, a lazy agent would just would take transactions in that coming through the window.
Reactive rather than proactive.
Exactly. And then you had a good experience with Savills. So let's call them out. Well done, Savills. That's fantastic.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think it just changed. Well, just your perception of agents for me just changed immediately. Like within just two individuals, and that's the thing, is the reputation of that whole agent for me now is very much sort of, it was a clear picture that's been painted. I wouldn't use them, and I would use Savills.
So what you went through is you dealt with, let's say, amateur and professional. Yeah. But what the industry's trying to get to, and certainly what FIA's trying to do, is create that professional brand where you know if you come into a FIA agent, you know you're going to get that treatment that you experience.
And they've got certain standards that must be kept up.
Yeah. We mystery shop our own agents.
How will you police that? I mean, is there going to be a complaints procedure within that agency that would be steered towards FIA?
Ultimately, yes. Right now, because we're still growing the network, we're finding those parameters and where those pinch points are. And I think the agents have to be comfortable with that redress, whatever we come up with. We mystery shop our agents every quarter.
I'd love to do that.
Which is a really good measure because they don't know when it's happening. The owners don't know when it's happening.
Was it like an inspection? You just go in there and see what they're doing and whether or not they're doing it correctly?
Yes, we do it through a web inquiry. So just someone who's interested in buying or selling a property, and we phone the agency as someone who's got a property to sell in the area. But we make the person on the other end of the phone extract that information and how good they are extracting it, and we also score it on how the caller felt they were treated as a person, because that's really important. How you felt, like
the relationship again.
Exactly right. Yeah, not non-transactional. So we do that, and we have the ability to remove member agents if we keep seeing bad things.
Have we had to do that yet?
We haven't had to do it yet. No.
Have you turned down anyone from applying?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes.
Well, give me an example. What's the weirdest one you had to turn down?
There's the group that the ones that I don't like are the ones that charging a couple of £100 to sell a home, because that immediately sends off an alarm bell that what sort of service levels are you going to provide for that, and they they're not an expert in a particular town. They cover too large an area.
Are we talking online then?
I think that it's all become a bit muddy, that whole terminology, online, offline, and hybrid, and hub and spoke. It's all becoming...
And freelance individuals as well.
Yeah, there's so many different model types.
Which licensing, I imagine, will sort out a little bit.
I think it will. It will, to be fair, yeah. And I think as long as there's teeth in that model, the licensing model, to say, you've cocked up, Adam. Yeah. You can't practice for 2 years. Yeah. That's what we need.
Yeah, well, I agree.
It's brutal, but
you know, it happens in other professions.
Yeah, no.
And longer than that.
Yeah, absolutely, it does. So your plans are to continue to grow, and one brand in one town.
Yes, one brand in one town. So we create a non-competing.
Or is it, say, a town, or is it like a postcode, or how?
Generally a town or a postcode district. Okay. It depends on the model type.
So if it's a small town, you probably only allow one. If it's a bigger town, you might allow two.
I think as long as they're not competing directly, that's the point. And they don't want to compete because they want to share. So it enables that sharing environment. If it's just one
there isn't an overlap, but there's a touching is fine, because then that would work quite well.
Yeah, and they share leads. So you and I, if we were members, we trust each other enough to share our leads that we're going to do a good job.
Can you help me out? Look, we're having a bit of trouble selling this house.
Yeah.
Can you take it on? It's my nearest.
Do you take joint commission there then or something? How does that work?
Yeah, so there'd be a commission share.
Do you give them a structure on that to help them, advise them?
Yeah, we administer the whole transaction from start to finish.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we make sure everything's paid on time, and we can check the land registry when sales go through to make sure that there's no...
That's really hands-on.
Of commission. Yeah.
Is that not a bit difficult though? Because if you're like a managing director or director of a company that's an agency and you've got people that are supposed to be letting or selling houses, it must be quite a difficult conversation, say, for me, sort of a younger person potentially as a hypothetical in the team, to go to someone and say, we need to use the guys down the road because we can't sell this.
It's more on the side of when you've got a property, say you've got a buyer as an agent and they want to sell their home, but it's just outside where you operate.
Right.
That's where you ring the FIA agent next to you and go, I can't do it, it's not my town.
Fine.
You're really good, can you do it for me?
Right. Hence why you don't let there to be too much competition on one high street.
Exactly right.
Yeah, that's it. That would be a difficult conversation to have. I'm not doing property, so we let the guy down the road do it for us.
Yeah, that wouldn't make sense.
And you're growing? Your membership's growing?
We're growing, yes. We're very new, so we launched in May. So
and you've got an event coming up, I believe.
We've got our first FIA conference on the 26th, so we have around 80 attendants.
Why do I know that?
Because you're going to be there.
Exactly.
You're on the stage.
I'm talking.
So I hope you're ready. I hope your presentation's ready.
I am ready, yeah, absolutely. And delighted to know that Zoopla are on before us, but that's great.
Got land registry coming as well.
Land registry.
Digital street.
Oh, okay, that's very interesting.
So a lot of things, a lot of blockchain talk going on at the moment, and the wider world know of the term, but they sort of associate it with Bitcoin.
Exactly the same. And what I try and tell them is actually
what I two different things. Blockchain is just something that just is straight.
Well, people do. Their eyes glaze. Trust me, I've been doing this for a while now, but people do think it's crypto based, and it's not. I mean, blockchain's been around since 500 years AD. I won't bore you with the story, but it was basically to sell, a way of selling fish and swapping for wheat and fruit, and it became a method of engaging with various buyers who all agreed the same price. So effectively, this is blockchain is like a peer-to-peer network. It's an immutable ledger. So if, for example, I don't know how you with your banking right now, do you I imagine you just use your phone? Go online.
Yeah.
You don't print out statements anymore?
No.
Okay. So if, for example, someone could potentially hack the bank account and withdraw money from your account, and you'd say, no, I definitely got paid that money, they would hack it and take that credit away. So you would have no proof. However, if you had your paper statements, you could go back and say, I've got immutable proof here. So effectively, it's a little bit like a WhatsApp group. So it's a peer-to-peer with no central entity. And so with Openbrix, at the moment, agents upload to Rightmove and to On the Market, and they sell your data, they sell the inquiries data, and they put it on a window, and they control the price. So what we're doing is simply the agents join a platform, and because it's peer-to-peer, there's no central entity, so the data can't be sold, and ultimately, this network is run by the users who join. So it's new technology, but it's a very, very old idea. So it's the technology that allows us to be able to give the guarantee that the price, for low monthly subscription is fixed. On that basis, the community decide. So if I were to turn around and say, look, we want to put the prices up, I have to get the 51% as a minimum of the community to agree. So it really is their platform. So it's quite exciting times, and it's the blockchain technology. That was started to come to fruition about 5 years ago, but now it's being put into practice, and it's really interesting. And I think blockchain is going to affect a lot of businesses, and I think it's going to be a lot of transparency. And I'm really excited about what we're doing at the moment. So I'm looking forward to talking about that at your event. So when's that again?
26th September.
Is that transparency with agents or agents and vendors? And
it's everyone who's invited on, because when we talk about transparency and all this information, a lot of agents think, and I don't want all my competitors to know what all my clients are doing. But the information's there. It's not visible. But then the agent can invite on the tenant, invite on the landlord, invite on the vendor, invite on the buyer, and indeed, invite on FIA if there's something that needs adjudicating. FIA can come in and because they're be invited onto that transaction.
So that
and they
individual
all
property
the information.
sale, for example, you would have me as hypothetically the prospective buyer, the seller, the agent,
the solicitor.
So everyone's then talking in the same place.
Correct. Absolutely. Solicitors can all talk, and they can all share information. The searches can go on there, the surveys can go on there. And on the letting side, of course, don't forget the tenants get this immutable ledger on their app, where they can just turn around and 18 months later and say, look, I've been paying my rent on time for the last 18 months. Not everyone can see that, but they can invite people to see that.
So will Openbrix have access to credit ledger?
Absolutely. So they'll get their immutable ledger, and they'll have an option of having their prompt rent payments uploaded to Credit Ladder.
So immediately then...
which then goes to Experian, and there are 2 other credit agencies that will be joining shortly. I can't say who they are, but you can work it out. And so that's very exciting. And what we want to do with FIA is because this portal is very much it's kind of been designed since my involvement for the independent, because I used to be an independent for 25 years. And I know that it wasn't a level, and still isn't a level playing field when it comes to paying fees. I saw one agent this week who's negotiated his new on the market fee, because they've started to charge now. He was getting it for free. They came in and asked him to pay £800 a month. He knocked it down to £50. I saw someone yesterday who told me that they've just started charging, and they're a smaller office, and they're charging £400. So
what's this for, sorry?
On the market.
On the market, which is another type of
Rightmove. Yeah, it started out. It started out with really the best intentions to try and create a level playing field, but it's built on a centralised portal with shareholders. And the idea that every agent would buy into it and have a small shareholding, and it'd be like a cooperative. The reality is not every agent could buy into it. They needed a bigger investment, so some of the bigger agents put in more money, got a bigger shareholding, then they IPO'd. And suddenly you've got loads of shares, loads of shareholders in, public shares as well, and of course shareholders, what do they want? They want profits.
Yeah.
So it's now all about profits. And you know, I think on the market going to struggle, because going from having something free to suddenly having to charge for it is very difficult. And the nice thing about ours, we're in a situation where we can give this low monthly subscription of £100. And I've had one agent wanting to join. He's got a number of branches, and they're saying, I'll come on, but I want a discount. And I can say, I can't. I can ask the community if they're happy for you to have a discount that they're not getting, but let me just, that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So it's quite nice. I can sit back and say, look, I'd love to, but I can't. So it really is a level playing field.
I think where agents are getting concerned is Rightmove. And the fees that Rightmove charge just keep going up and up and up.
I've got to tell you, the best one. We had an agent last week, I put it on LinkedIn actually. He was paying £1,200 a month. He was putting on between 17 and 20 properties roughly in the last 3 months before that. And he said that was about his average. Sometimes it would go down to 15, and once it went up to 22. So we're talking a fairly rough, even number of listed properties. And his increase went from £1,200 a month to £3,765 a month. I mean, how can you possibly justify a 213% increase?
Yeah,
it's just ridiculous.
Crazy. And I think that what agents need is certainty. Yeah. Like any business, you need to know your outgoings or in life, you need to know your outgoings every month. And if you didn't know that your car insurance might go up double one year, that's quite a frightening thought, that if it kept doubling, I can't afford to run a car anymore. And it's the same with agents and portals. It gets to the point where they can't afford to run them.
No, they can't. And if I know on the market not restricting all of them, but they're giving a discount if you only list with two portals, and that's fair enough. That's been challenged and they won. I still don't think it's particularly fair. But I just think that concept is wrong, because surely they should be supporting their clients, and they're not really doing that. None of them are, because again, it's centralised, and they have a duty to their shareholders. Yeah,
I think it's becoming a very, very bitter taste in the mouth of the portal world, and I think that's where Openbrix have got an opportunity to be the good guys. In that you're giving certainty and fairness. And that's
it is a democratised platform.
Those two things have been missing.
Yeah. Well, we hope to, and we appreciate the support you're giving us, and the opportunity to talk at your event. But so onwards and upwards. Elliot, lastly, I've got to ask you, as a student tenant, come on, what was the worst thing you did to the property?
To the property?
Yeah, come on.
Couldn't say that. I could not say that in here. They're doing anything too bad, to be honest. I think I was the worst of...
your face says differently.
Be careful with the way my face is moving now. No, it's just standard, isn't it? You have parties in the house.
Yeah.
I mean, we were living in sort of a very nice 19th, 20th, early 20th century house.
It was very nice before you got
it. It was, yeah. Emphasis on the was. But you just have parties in it and stuff, and it naturally just gets a little bit worn, and then you have another party and it gets a little bit more worn, and
the red wine stains.
Well, they happen.
And I'm not accusing you, but I reckon that, I know you said about that 8 hours of cleaning, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was a couple or 3 hours. I can imagine that hob. On grease.
In that particular house, then I would have been absolutely fine with that bill and cleaning, but it wasn't that house that was the problem. But it was
student days.
It was a long time ago.
I like the phrase parties and stuff. And stuff is the bit you won't tell us about.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's great. Well, look, I think we're probably coming to the end. And so, Elliot, thank you very much for attending today. And nice to hear your views. And Graham, thank you very much for coming.
Pleasure.
And lastly, I just want to reiterate, I'm a big fan of the FIA.
Thank you.
It's not just because you've asked me to come and speak at your event, but I think it's a really good thing. I think it's very positive, and I think it's about raising standards. And the big agencies should be taking note as well.
Yeah, I appreciate your support.
Not at all. My pleasure. So thank you very much for coming today, and look forward to the next one. Thanks, Hi guys, thanks for listening to the podcast. I hope you found some nuggets from the podcast that can help you in your career and business. If you want to get in touch with us, see how we're doing, how we're developing, then please visit openbrix.co.uk. That's Openbrix with an X.